Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, the suspensions are over for the UW students that caused over $1 million in damage to the engineering building. But before we get to any of that, we got some breaking news for you right now.
Talk Radio 570 KVI, breaking news on the Ari Hoffman Show.
The Seattle Times is reporting that 2 Seattle public schools are on lockdown due to reported ICE activity. I am ready to call BS on this unless proven otherwise, and let me tell you why. The 2 schools in question are Aki Kurosi Middle School and Cleveland High School. They are 10 minutes away from each other by car, not by walking. They are 10 minutes away from each other. Is there ICE activity in all of South Seattle? Now, I know some of you are probably going, yeah, let's do it. The last time this happened, it was a parent who saw a rent-a-cop, and then everybody went on lockdown. The time before this, where this happened, a TSA agent drove a TSA car home from the airport, and people freaked out about it. Is this actually happening? Maybe. We don't know. But reading in between the lines of the Seattle Times article, they don't know either. What we do know is that 2 schools went on lockdown for reported ICE activity. Does that mean that a parent saw an unmarked police car and said, ICE is here, ICE is here, ICE is here, and had the schools do it? None of the other schools. There's a whole bunch of Seattle public schools in that area. How do I know? I live over there. Graham Hill School isn't on lockdown. A lot of people who are immigrants go to that school. Van Asselt isn't on lockdown. It's up near Cleveland. Why these 2? Did a parent see something? Or is ICE activity actually happening? I thought it'd be fun because now they have all these social media pages which are tracking ICE in our area, and they're usually wrong, to just send them false tips and send them all over the place. We saw this the other day where they said, there's ICE activity at the Rainier Safeway. Didn't specify which Rainier Safeway, by the way. There's a few of them. So there's ICE activity. And what was it? There was a community safety meeting where all the people from law enforcement brought the cop cars because guess what? Cops drive cop cars. The hysterics are out of control. And I came to a realization this weekend. When you see what the Democrats are lying about here in Olympia, when you see what Tim Walz and Jacob Fry are lying about, straight to the Fox News anchors who are calling them out on their BS about what they're saying. They're thinking to themselves, they're doing simple math. The majority of Americans do not watch Fox News, even though it is the highest rated cable news show. The majority of Americans do not listen to the Ari Hoffman Show. Wish they did. You can always do so over on the podcasts and on the KVI app. You can download it, send it to your friends, share it with them. Wish they did. But they know that the rest of the media will cover for them, and they'll never get called out on their lies. All they have to do is repeat their talking points, and they'll get away with it. There's no fraud. ICE is gazpacho. That's all they have to keep doing, and that's what they're going to keep doing. Now, if you look at a recent poll that was released by CBS, the question is, are Americans on board with what they're seeing with ICE? Let's not forget, we are 1 year into the second Trump administration, and a year ago, one of the top issues was the reason that people voted for President Trump was the border. Well, the border's effectively sealed, and people are happy about that, so this issue doesn't even rank anymore. Now let's get to the enforcement itself. And Americans are very, very split on the enforcement. They're kind of squishy on it because they don't like to see how the sausage is made. They don't want illegal aliens in the country who are criminals, but they also don't want to see ICE running around the streets arresting people and videos going viral and having debates over whether or not a lady should have been shot in a car and whether or not she was trying to run over an ICE agent. It seems like what Americans want is, yeah, just get rid of it, but I don't want to see it. That's what I'm reading into from the CBS poll showing how everybody's split. And also a lot of people think, well, if the borders are secure, do we really need this? I mean, whoever's here is here and crime is crime, right? Right? I don't think that the media truly understands what's happening here. Americans want to be safe in their own homes. Americans don't want to be victims of criminals. But also, Americans don't want to see the arrests unless they're watching Cops, unless they like watching that show. Maybe if they made a reality show out of what's going on with ICE, a new version of Cops, then maybe people would be interested in watching it. And hey, Trump's good at making reality shows, so let's have him do that. They don't like seeing the sausage being made. So what you're seeing is you're starting to see the poll numbers kind of shift a little bit away from the Republicans regarding the enforcement because people don't want to be seeing it with their own two eyes. However, what happened over the weekend was somebody who we haven't heard of in quite a very, very long time, Don Lemon.
Now, that's a name I've not heard in a long time. A long time.
So, former anchor over at CNN, Don Lemon, decided to organize a group of protesters. And yes, he helped organize it. Why else was he there? What, you think a random podcaster is going to be there if he doesn't know they're going to do it? He brought them coffee and bagels and donuts. He interviewed them beforehand, was talking about how important it was. Look, I'm only at things because people tell me something's going on. I don't just happen to be walking down the street and, oh, look, an anti-Israel rally. No, somebody told me it was going to be happening, so I went out there and saw it. Why do you think he was there? He went into the church along with these radicals to protest. Now, here's something really bonkers about this. He kept saying it was his First Amendment right as a reporter. Number one, your First Amendment right does not cancel out people's First Amendment right to pray and worship, and you got in the way of that. But number two, how'd that argument go over for people on January 6th? Oh, I'm just covering it because I'm a streamer and I got a cell phone. How'd that work out for them, Don? And I remember you, Don, saying that doesn't make you a journalist. That doesn't make you a reporter. You violated this, that, and the other thing. You violated these people's First Amendment rights. There's a church here. And what happens with this church is that people want to pray on a Sunday. And then you have Don Lemon and his merry band of morons come in and disrupt the whole thing. Then he's talking to the pastor, interviewing the pastor after disrupting his services. And here's what happened.
What do you think of this?
I mean, this is unacceptable. It's shameful. It's shameful to interrupt a public gathering of Christians in worship. So,
but there were folks who will say,
I have to take care of my flock.
okay, but listen, we live in there's a Constitution and the First Amendment to freedom of speech and freedom to assemble and protest.
Yeah. We're here to worship. We're here to worship Jesus because that's the hope of these cities. That's the hope of the world is Jesus Christ.
I want to be very respectful. Please don't push me, though.
We're here to worship Jesus.
Yes.
That's why we're here.
Yes.
Okay. That's why we're here. Okay. That's what we're about.
Don't you think Jesus would be understanding
we're about
and love these folks?
We're about spreading the love of Jesus.
But did you try to talk to them as a Christian?
No one is willing to talk.
Okay.
I have to take care of my church and my family, so I asked that you actually.
You know how Jesus would probably feel about this? If Israel had better border patrol, Jesus might not have been killed by the Romans. Sorry, guys. Throwing that one out there for a second, Don. Sorry, I know your book better than you, even though you claim to be a Christian. Let's be real about this for a second. You came into a church during Sunday worship services that had nothing whatsoever to do with what's going on outside to cause a spectacle, to get the clicks. And if we don't have basic respect for each other in this country, do we even have a country anymore? You went in there to disrupt their First Amendment rights, and guess what? You might have broken the law. there's this thing called the FACE Act. And unfortunately, I have gotten very, very, very familiar with the FACE Act. And let me tell you why. I haven't spoken about this before, and if you want to call up and argue theology with me, you are more than welcome to. There's an activist church in our area, and this church started sending missionaries to my synagogue, which is across the street from another synagogue, and on Saturdays, they were there trying to interfere with us and recruit us to convert. Now, I don't care what you believe. You don't care what I believe. That's fine. But do we have mutual respect for each other where I go? I'm happy you believe what you believe. Religious people usually better off, lead a better life, whatever. Great. But don't bother me about mine. Week after week after week, these guys kept coming. We got enough problems with security without worrying about missionaries showing up. And when we said, look, guys, you want to try and talk to the adults, fine, but don't mess with the kids. They're handing out flyers to the kids who are running around the neighborhood. And we started getting very, very upset with this. So we told the community, don't talk to them because you're only encouraging them. Don't argue theology with them. They get encouraged by that. Just ignore them. And when we started ignoring them, you know what they started doing? They started redeploying so you couldn't not interact with them. They were blocking corners as we were trying to get to synagogues, and congregants had to walk in the middle of the street where cars are to get around them. And what we found out was, guess what? That's a violation of the FACE Act. The FACE Act was originally created to stop people who are protesting abortion clinics. You can't deny access to an abortion clinic. Well, something else was added into that. You can't deny access to a house of worship. You can't stop people from worshiping. States have variations of this thing, but there is a federal law about it. It's here in Washington, and it is in Minnesota. Don Lemon and his friends, in my opinion, are 100% guilty of violating the FACE Act, which is punishable with jail and massive fines. And anybody who says, oh, it's political, you're just going after Don Lemon. No, he did this to himself. Now he's freaking out that the feds might actually be coming after him. So what is he trying to do? Rally support around what he did. Here's Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison, who claims that the FACE Act only applies to abortion clinics. I've read the law, dude. And with my one semester of pre-law courses, even though I'm not a lawyer, it's there in black and white. This isn't so hard. How come you can't see it?
Yeah, I'm familiar with the FACE Act. You know, in Minnesota, we uphold the right of a woman to choose. And some of the activists, will, sort of so we're in both. It has to, the law has to do with whether or not people's freedom to protest, generally regarding reproductive clinics and things like that. So that's the FACE Act.
Yeah, there's more to it. Keep reading, dude. It applies to houses of worship as well. In fact, Zoran Mamdani knew he had this problem when a whole bunch of the pro-Hamas activists tried to block people from going into a synagogue a few weeks ago. That's a violation of the FACE Act. You don't get to do that. Your First Amendment rights do not trump my First Amendment rights. You don't get to do that. Luckily, Harmeet Dillon told Newsmax, yeah, she doesn't read the law the same way Keith Ellison reads it.
The Attorney General has been on this from the moment it happened. There are already 2 prosecutors from my office on their way to Minneapolis, and they'll be there this morning. We have an FBI team assembled and local prosecutors as well. This is going to get the highest attention from the Department of Justice because there is no more sacred right in our Constitution than the right to assemble and pray to God. And there are federal laws that protect that right. And what happened here was a shameful exercise of virtue signaling, disruption, fear, terror. You can see children in this video being ushered out the back by their terrorized mothers. And this is illegal. And I want to add that the Biden administration prosecuted people peacefully praying outside abortion clinics for much, much less.
There's a picture that went viral after this. It's what I believe is a father, a child who looks like he's 7, 8 years old, and I believe the wife. Now, the child is cuddled up against dad for fear of what's going on around them. A few years ago, actually, this is already more than a few years ago, my kids were little at the time, somebody broke into my house through a window while we were all home. We heard it. And back then, I wasn't a gun guy. You better believe I'm a gun guy now. But what happened was I heard the glass breaking. And my wife has a section of the house where she has wedding dresses for loans for people. They're very, very heavy. And occasionally, the racks they're on collapse. So I heard it collapse from that room, and I said, oh, sweetie, I think one of them came down. And as I went into the room, I heard guys talking. And I heard one of them say, oh, blank, they're home. And they ran. Now, this is before I was involved in politics, but it was clearly the glass breaking on this exterior window. I set the alarm. I called the police. No show, no show, no show, no show, no show, no show. And this is before they were as defunded as they were then. My kids didn't see this. My kids didn't hear this. They just heard me and my wife talking about it in the house. My kids were so scared of what happened, they didn't want to sleep alone. So they all slept in the same bedroom together for the better part of a year after that. And anytime I said, hey, guys, you want to go back to your room? No. That kid now saw with their own two eyes these lunatics yelling and screaming and chanting and didn't know what they were chanting about. It just knows they came into a place where this kid goes every Sunday, and the kid is terrified of the noise. You think that kid's going to go back to church this week? If ever? You think that kid wants to go back? Don Lemon and these anti-ICE lunatics ruined church for that kid for God knows how long. Will they ever recover from it? Does it become one of those things a few years from now? Remember, Don Lemon came into the church and now he's sitting in jail? Or does it become a thing of the end, that kid never went back to church? We have a First Amendment for a reason. We came here so we could have freedom of religion. And Don Lemon destroyed that with activism. Because he is anti the laws of this country, just like those other radical lunatics are anti the laws of this country. That's what you saw here. And I'll tell you how this is virtue signaling. If you guys really don't like the laws on immigration, go change them. Work with Congress to change them. Oh, Ari, Democrats aren't in the majority right now. Fine, do what the Republicans in Olympia are doing. We proposed this bill. They didn't want to do it. You know how the Democrats could win right now? They could say, guys, we're going to do genuine immigration reform. And we're going to say is just what Ari Hoffman said a while ago before he got yelled at about it. If you've been in this country for X amount of years, you have no priors, you've never been on welfare, blah, 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 blah. Here's the road to citizenship. Let's get rid of the criminals. And a lot of Americans would support that and say, hey, Republicans, why aren't you passing this? This seems like common sense. But they won't do it because they want the argument. They don't want the solution. They know the law is the law. They're not working to change that. All they're trying to do is create chaos so they can win an election in 2026 and 2028 by making it seem like Donald Trump causes chaos. Donald Trump is the one enforcing the law. ICE is the one enforcing the law. The Democrats are the ones who went in, violated the FACE Act by disrupting a church. So, at this point, you realize his First Amendment rights do not trump anybody else's First Amendment rights. I'm furious about this. I hope he gets prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Really, truly believe that. And all the Democrats who are backing him up, even Tim Walz isn't backing him up. Even Tim Walz is saying, yeah, you shouldn't go into a church. You shouldn't do that kind of stuff. If Tim Walz is even calling you out and you're on his side, how far have you strayed? When we come back, my friends, speaking of radical activists, the ones at the University of Washington might be being let off the hook even after causing $1 million worth of damage to the engineering building. I'll tell you what's going on when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show. So Saturday night, one of my friends who keeps in touch with the lunatic social media accounts saw that the pro-Hamas and Antifa activists were all celebrating because their suspensions were over at the University of Washington. Let's backtrack for a minute here. For those of you who may be new to the show, those of you who may have moved to Seattle recently, 9 months ago, in May, you had a whole bunch of Antifa and anti-Israel activists take over the engineering building at the University of Washington. While they were inside, they caused over $1 million worth of damage to this building. $1 million minimum. I actually think the number's a lot higher, but we don't have that number. We know about the $1 million. So there have been multiple protests beforehand. There have been protests that caused thousands of dollars worth of damage, like these lunatics, same lunatics, caused $50,000 worth of damage to the Husky Union building, the hub, their big social hangout area with the bowling alleys and all that. And this group was the same group that did it, the same one that was involved in the Gaza encampment, the violent anti-Semitic encampment on campus. University of Washington finally said, well, we can't ignore this anymore. We have to suspend these lunatics, and 33 kids got suspended. Now, simultaneously, the University of Washington, according to the King County prosecutors, their police department, meaning University of Washington's, has not gotten the King County prosecutors what they need to charge anybody. Now, the claim is there's no video from the building, which I have a big problem believing that, because you have a brand new building and there's no security cameras on it? Really? I also know that the media was live streaming this event, was broadcasting this event. Plenty of people like Katie Davenport, Jonathan Cho, Cam Higbee, and others were down there live streaming it. We know cars that came. We have their license plate numbers. We saw people lighting things on fire. We know who was there. We know what they were doing. At minimum, they were trespassing. At minimum, they were blocking access. You have them on that. What about the rest of the charges? So now the question becomes, are these guys just getting off completely scot-free? So, according to the University of Washington, the students were out of class and banned from campus for 3 quarters. Suspensions also resulted in forfeiture of tuition paid or repayment of tuition for anyone who must remain in good standing in order to receive financial aid, such as tuition exemption grants for graduate students or work study. Once a suspension is concluded, any outstanding balances due must be paid in order to be eligible for re-enrollment. Requests to waive these payments or to refund tuition that has already been paid have been denied. We are committed to ongoing transparency with accountability in our expectations for the members of the community, which will be facilitated by the previously announced review of our student conduct losses. UWPD is still working with the King County Prosecuting Attorney's Office on criminal charges. It's been 8 months. At this point, I don't believe you, and nobody else does either. Why? Because the University of Washington Police Department may look all tough in the gear. If you have a stolen bicycle, you call them, maybe they'll find it. Maybe. They are not set up for this. But they had SPD responding. They had the Washington State Patrol responding. And yet they're not involved in this investigation. If you guys can't handle it, call them. They were there. And just say, hey, we'll call in the pros. They'll do the forensic work. We're not really set up for that. They responded to it as well. What is the holdup here? And every day that ticks by, your chances of charges become less and less and less. So probably what happened was the attorneys for these kids probably said, you got to let them back on campus. They haven't been charged with anything. And the suspension time is over. So the University of Washington probably said, okay, but we're not refunding their tuition. Oh, okay. Very strongly worded letter. I get it. Now the activists are fundraising for the tuition. So it's only a matter of time until they're back on campus, and they think they can get away with whatever they want. The message has been sent loud and clear. By the way, I recommend you avoid downtown today. Yesterday was the big MLK march. And it was truly we don't know who's actually protesting or what we're protesting for, because every single cause in the world was represented. It's just like that scene out of PCU.
It's a whole new ball game on campus these days, and they call it PC.
PC?
politically correct. And it's not just politics, it's everything. It's what you eat, it's what you wear, and it's what you say. And if you don't watch yourself, you can get in a buttload of trouble. For instance,
We have rights
see these girls?
Choose to
Yeah?
choose.
No, you don't. Those are women. You call them girls, and they'll pop your figs.
Save the whales. Gays in the military now.
Free Nelson Mandela.
They freed him already.
So I assume the same thing is going on in downtown Seattle right now as we speak, and the activists are emboldened. They're not going to get charged. They'll never get charged by any level of government here. The feds are tied up with more high-profile cases, except at this point, you got to wonder if the feds go, wait a minute, you let all these guys off the hook, and they caused over $1 million worth of damage to your school. Don't forget, University of Washington is under federal investigation for civil rights violations. I don't think this whole mess is helping their case. I want to know, do you think they're ever going to get charged? Give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. The other question is if anybody else is going to get charged who's a Democrat. And when we come back, my friends, Congress says they're investigating how Ilhan Omar is now worth $30 million after earning a congressional salary for just a few years. Talk about it, plus more, when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, download the KVI app and subscribe on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. That way you never miss a minute of the show. Also, make sure to share it and rate it so everybody else knows how much fun the show is. So there's a new report out saying that the State Department cut $1.8 billion in spending during 2025. And that's great because I know that I started getting all my documentation for my taxes together this month, started getting all that paperwork in the mail from banks and everybody else. And my first thought is, how much of this is going to Somalians? My first thought is, how much of this is going to waste, fraud, and abuse when I pay my taxes? That's my first thought. I'm sure a lot of you had the exact same thing. So you're thinking to yourself, great, we saved $1.8 billion on not funding a whole bunch of countries that don't like us very much. Great, wonderful, fantastic. Then Dr. Oz. Dr. Oz tells us that they found $1.8 billion from Medicaid was spent on illegal aliens, and they're going to stop it from happening again. Great, fantastic, wonderful. Then we find out that over $70 million in Medicaid home health care fraud schemes were exposed in New York. Great, fantastic. So between all that, what do we got? 2.7 billion? No, not even. 2.07 billion. That's it. Now, Republicans are rolling out a $1.2 trillion spending bill. I'm sorry, guys. No. No. You haven't done the Doge rescissions yet. And we're running out of time. Because what's going to happen, even with such a thin majority, is if we lose in 2026, Chuck Schumer made it very, very clear what he's going to do.
If you look at the budget actually we're working on right now, and we'll have the T-HUD budget, transportation and HUD budget, we restore most of the cuts and even go higher than previous years on many of the programs that Doge slashed. When I met our nominee for HUD secretary, then he was nominee, he talked a nice game. But he doesn't seem to have the clout to make those views prevail over the Doge people, over the cut people. But we have worked really hard in the budget and gotten bipartisan support to increase these amounts and undo a lot of the cuts, which are essential.
So you're going to restore all the waste, fraud, and abuse spending. You're going to restore all of it. Guys, you got to cut the stuff now, and you got to do it through rescissions, and you got to do it by law. Because then you might have a chance of stopping them from restoring this kind of stuff. That's what you have to do, and you have to do it right now. Why haven't they? I know Doge has their account where they put out an announcement every single Friday of all the stuff they've cut, and it's great. It's huge. It's wonderful. It's fantastic, but you haven't cut enough. We all know this. We all know this. You have to cut a lot more. I mean, think about it this way. How is it that somebody like Ilhan Omar is now worth $30 million after only earning $174,000 a year on a congressional salary? Fox News says there might be a light at the end of the tunnel for this little story.
This woman Ilhan Omar's net worth went up nearly $30 million. The question is how. Here's what we know. Omar's husband, a former political consultant, owns a venture capital firm based in Washington, D.C. and a winery in California. Take a look at these numbers. In 2023, Omar disclosed a maximum of $50,000 in assets at the winery. The next year, Dana, that number increased to $5 million. Meanwhile, her husband's company, Rose Lake Capital, reported a maximum of $1,000 in assets in 2023. The next year, it was $25 million. Despite that, Omar denied being a millionaire earlier this year, posting on X, quote, "I barely have thousands, let alone millions." House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer tells Fox News an investigation is underway, writing, quote, "The committee is working on addressing ethics concerns regarding Representative Omar and her spouse, and we hope to have an update soon." But Omar says she's being targeted.
Ever since I've gotten to Congress, they have been doing these sort of weird ethics investigations. None of them have yielded anything because I have been as transparent as I can be.
Of course, others see it differently. Elon Musk says Omar committed fraud, while President Donald Trump posted on Truth Social, quote, "She should be in jail or even a worse punishment, sent back to Somalia." Omar authored the Meals Act in 2020, which loosened oversight on food programs during COVID. Federal prosecutors say one of those programs, Feeding Our Future, stole $250 million through fake meal sites. We did reach out to Omar as part of this story, but so far we have not heard back, Dana.
Because her donors were involved in that. And she had campaign events at the places that were supposedly making those fake meals. And not once you thought to yourself, hey, where's your production facility? Hey, let me take some pictures with the production. How do you go from a net worth of nothing to a net worth of $30 million? It's not through a winery. That winery sounds like it's as profitable as finger painting for Hunter Biden. Oh, you want a favor? Let's sell you some wine. This sounds all kinds of sketchy. And I hope they do a full investigation into this. In fact, President Trump was out there today. It's been a year of the Trump administration talking about some of the other fraud they found in Ilhan Omar's state.
Nobody talks about the fact that $19 billion at a minimum is missing in Minnesota, given to a large degree by Somalians. They've taken it. Somalians, can you imagine? And they don't do it. A lot of very low IQ people, they don't do it. Other people work it out. And they get them money, and they go out and buy Mercedes-Benzes, and they come from here. They have no money. They never had money. They never had a life. They never had a government. They never had a country, because there's basically no country. Somalia is not even a country. They don't have anything that resembles a country. And if it is a country, it's considered just about the worst in the world. They come here, and they become rich, and they don't have a job. I was told that Ilhan Omar is worth $30 million. She never had a job. She's a crooked congressman.
Exactly. So the question is she going to see any charges? What's the investigation going to yield? How long is it going to go on for? And then if they actually do find anything, is the mainstream media going to cover for her and go, oh, it's just Trump persecuting his political enemies? I asked earlier if you guys thought that the UW vandals were going to see any charges. Jeff and Kent says, suspension? Expel them. Then Jeff asks, didn't the Antifa guys take hostages too, like a bunch of janitors? No, Jeff, I know which one you're talking about. That was in Columbia. That was Columbia University. That wasn't the University of Washington. This one here from Bob in Lacey. The students will never get charged. It's the Democrats' strongest suit by protecting their own, no matter what it costs. Jeff and Ken also adds, charges? No, like the Sonics, it's not going to happen. Very good. Very, very good. John in Lakewood says, UW engineering vandals being under the command of Democrats won't be prosecuted. Seems like everybody seems to agree about this. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from Ted in Gig Harbor. Ted, what's going on, man?
Ari.
What's up?
Isn't Ilhan Omar a Muslim?
Yeah.
What's she doing with financial interest in a winery?
Good question. Good question. Now, I know, let's just be fair for a minute here, okay? So I'm Jewish and we can't have the bacon, right? You are allowed to own restaurants that serve non-kosher. There are some very complicated laws about it, but you kind of have to find certain ways of not profiting off that. Really complicated. I mean, we do have the Hebrew word for loophole, but yeah, you're 100% right. I do have questions about the winery aspect, and that's actually a really good question to be asking there, Ted.
Of course, that's just 20% of her $30 million worth or thereabouts. What's the other $25 million? That's even more outrageous.
Well, what I heard in that report from Fox News, Ted, what I heard was a couple million here, a couple million there. That didn't total up to $30 million. Is she trading stocks with Nancy Pelosi? Or is it something else that's going on?
You took the words out of my mouth.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks for the call, Ted. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, there is a furry bar in Seattle. If you don't know what that is, we're going to educate you a little bit about the weird lifestyles in our city. We'll tell you all about it when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. All right, I don't think you have to earmuff the kids for this segment, but there is a subculture of people here in Seattle that call themselves furries. They like to live life in, I guess, glorified mascot costumes. Some of them are nicer than others, but they act like the animals or creatures they are in. I know my wife used to get very upset with me when I would dress in my Purim costume, that's Jewish Halloween, and sort of do some of the characteristics of whatever I was dressed. She goes, nothing bothers me more than the people who think they are the people when they're in costume. And I'm sure a lot of you would agree with me. I see Kevin nodding his head right there. He's going, yep, completely agree there.
It's one of the reasons why towards the end at Comic-Con, I went a few times way back in the day, but when it became a more like cosplay situation where everybody's dressed up as some sort of character, a comic book superhero, I want to stay away from that as far as possible. Nothing against you.
Right. So
I don't enjoy it.
The dressing up doesn't bother me. The playing the character bothers me. I remember there was a Star Trek convention here at the Mopop, whatever it was called before that.
Yeah.
So over at the Sci-Fi Hall of Fame. And this woman was dressed in her full Star Trek regalia. And let's just say steps in the elevator. The captain is on the deck.
Oh, sure.
And wanted all of us to get excited about that.
She had some dialogue. You guys were unaware of the script,
right,
and she wanted you to play along.
Exactly. And as cute as that is for 10 seconds, it wears pretty quickly. And we're going to talk about Star Trek later in the show. I love Star Trek. I don't have the appetite for that at all. I just don't. I realize my line is drawn at some of the convention stuff. Okay. So these people in these mascot costumes, apparently there is a furry bar in Seattle. Now, this video was making the rounds because some social life reporters were reporting on it and posting it on social media. And when I saw it, I said, this is crazy. Now, realize the people talking, aside from the woman who's introducing everything, everybody's in a form of costume. There's a giant rabbit. There's a giant fox, so you can know what the fox says. There's people in all kinds of costumes who are talking and being seen in this video, but listen to how crazy they get at this bar.
We're here today at Slightly Furry, one of the U.S.'s only furry bars, and we're going to ask the experts to rank Seattle sports mascots. Slightly Furry is an award-winning cidery. It's a cozy spot that aims to lift up furry, queer, and underrepresented communities that need a louder voice. And if you want to have your cider or mead out of a dog bowl or use one of the fursuit straws, they've got you covered.
Hang on. Stop right there. If you want to have your cider or mead out of a dog bowl, they've got you covered.
What about a cat bowl?
Yeah, well, that's discriminatory against the cats. Already, right there. Or how about one of those little hamster things that comes down from the side of the cage,
Or
right?
if you're a bird, what is it? Bird bath.
Yeah.
What about that?
This is discriminatory, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, discriminating against other types of creatures. And as she's talking about this, the dude with his giant paws, who I think is the fox in that one, is pulling a dog bowl closer to him and using a straw. Okay, guys, right there, the straw. Do you know any animals who use a straw out of their dog bowl? No, they use their tongues because they actually have the tongues designed for that. But, guys, you're in a costume. You are in a costume. And this isn't like a Transformers costume where you can turn into the car, which is really cool, and then stand back up again. Kind of cool. No, you're pretending you're a rabbit.
Ahead of the Seahawks game, we wanted to consult with the experts on the full bench of Seattle's mascots, from costume construction to their level of riz.
I'm Spork. I'm the resident rabbit and the cider mancer here to make all the things you drink.
I'm Martini. I'm your friendly neighborhood infoxicologist. I'm the red-haired half of the logo. I'm the one who started this whole thing.
I'm Shifty, Nash Tapper. When you come in here, you probably see me.
Do you know why you can't understand them? Because they're under the giant heads. So you have no idea what they're saying. Also, if you guys are really committed to the bit, how come you're not going bow wow, woof woof, yip yip, or whatever a fox says? What does the fox say, right? This is an actual
kind of a bark, right?
Yeah.
Fox kind of has got a whinier dog bark, I think.
I don't know. I've been in the wolf enclosure and they like howl. That was cool,
Yeah.
but I have no idea what the fox says. I know the song. I have no idea what the fox says.
Don't we have like a PSA that runs that, Mommy, what is the chicken? How does the chicken sound? It'll come up later. Don't worry. I'll point it out when it plays
I don't
later.
know which one you're talking about right now. But at what point do you go, this is fun? And at what point do you go, there's a problem here? Look, people want to have fun with cosplaying. I got no problem with that whatsoever. Really, really don't. It's when you don't realize there's a line between living your life and the mascot costumes, and they're analyzing our mascot, Blitz, and the Moose, and everybody else, and that's fine, but they're doing it because they believe they are these creatures. They are living life as these creatures. That's the thing I got an issue with, where you don't know the line between fantasy and reality. The fact that there's a whole bar subculture here about this, what's next? What's next? Use your imagination and think about what kind of bar comes next. Look, I love dressing in costumes for Purim. I love occasions where I get to dress in costumes. I love 50s nights. I love Roaring 20s nights. I love that garbage. I really, really do. These people are living their lives that they're drinking their alcohol. I don't think dogs and cats and wolves drink alcohol. Their mead and their cider, because you can't just say beer. Their mead out of a dog bowl. That's where I have the issues. We're trying not to be like the animals, but here, look at what's going on in this bar. Troubling, to say the least. Very, very troubling. Speaking of troubling, my friends, lots of insanity coming out of the Washington State Legislature. We'll tell you the latest craziness, plus another truck driver arrested. We'll tell you what for this time. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up at 4:30, William Kirk from Washington Gun Law will be joining us to tell us about the outrageous legislation the Democrats are proposing. But before we get to any of that, time for your daily dose of adrenaline.
You want me to stick this into my heart? Are you f***ing nuts?
We only know the basics of this story, but as I am walking you through it, you are going to know likely where it's going to end. A semi-truck driver is in custody following a crash with a Washington Department of Transportation snowplow on I-90 that left the plow overturned and its driver hospitalized after he plowed into the plow. Thank you. According to WSDOT, the collision occurred Tuesday night on eastbound I-90. While a snowplow operator was actively treating the roadway, the agency said the plow was struck by a semi-truck, causing it to veer into the median and roll over. The pictures are up on my social media, KVI.com, and the Washington Department of Transportation's Facebook page. I don't know how the driver survived. I really don't. But apparently he walked away with minimal injuries. If he was in a car, he'd probably be dead. But because it was a massive, massive snowplow, this guy survived. According to Washington Department of Transportation, our snowplow driver was actively applying product to the road when a semi-truck struck his vehicle. The impact caused our plow to enter the median and roll over. The snowplow driver was transported to a hospital in Ellensburg for evaluation and was later released. WSDOT officials said the driver is experiencing soreness, but is otherwise okay. Incredible, by the way. Absolutely incredible. This thing was upside down. I don't know how the roof didn't crush from all the weight. I don't know how this guy walked away from it. I really don't. Washington State Patrol arrested the truck driver at the scene on suspicion of driving under the influence. I looked up the jail records, which show an Illinois man is being held on $15,000 bail for driving under the influence and reckless endangerment of an emergency zone worker. Now, one of our amazing KVI listeners saw the story, sent it to me, and sent me the driver's name. Of course, I had to verify it on the county website. But, yeah, WSDOT confirmed this guy is the guy who was arrested. He has not been charged yet, and I'm waiting for the county to get back to me with the charges. He's being held on a couple charges, driving under the influence and reckless endangerment of an emergency worker. But the name, shall we just say it's not Joe Smith? The name sounds a little bit more out of this country, shall we say. No, his last name is not Singh. I know that's what a lot of you are saying. Oh, is his last name Singh? No, it's not. So the question is this person in the U.S. legally or illegally? And I think one of the reasons we haven't gotten the information from the county yet is they know what we're going to do as soon as we get the information we want. Charging documents usually have birth date. Charging documents have addresses. And what ICE needs to tell me if this person's in the country or not is birth date and address. And the second those charging documents come out, guess what we get, and guess who I send an email to know if this driver is in the country legally or illegally. Let's not forget, the last truck driver who was an illegal alien, who got a CDL, a commercial driver's license from California, who killed a father, was released because of Washington sanctuary state laws. WSDOT officials call the incident inexcusable and emphasize the dangers snowplow operators face while working during winter storms. Quote, when our plows are actively treating the roads, they must drive slower than normal to apply product effectively and evenly. Driving slower prevents scatter of material and keeps more of it on the roadway. The department urged drivers to make safe choices behind the wheel, stressing the importance of not driving impaired and giving snowplows adequate space. Do not crowd or pass our plows while they're working. We want all of our equipment available when a snowstorm comes, but more importantly, we want everyone to get home safely at the end of the day. Here's something else. You know what happens when you go past a snowplow, right? People in Western Washington, our section of Western Washington, may not know this because it doesn't snow here that often in Seattle, right? In our little corner of paradise here. All that stuff comes flying at your car. And sometimes there's big chunks of salt or whatever it is that they're using. It flies at your car. Your car is nasty afterwards, and sometimes pretty dinged up. Stay away from the snowplows. Or here, East Coast trick. You ready for this? I'm going to give you all the tricks right now. If you are near a snowplow and you are having trouble driving, get behind the snowplow at a safe distance because it is plowing the road in front of you and you can get where you're going, but stay far enough away that's not going to spray you. Look, if it's going slow, you go slow, but at least you get home safe. I assume I'm not telling a lot of you anything you don't know, but good tips. Good tips. The few times it did snow here in Seattle, I would always say to my kids when they were learning to drive, get in the car. Dad, I got my license already. Get in the car. I'm going to show you how to drive in this weather. Let's do it. I live on a very, 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 very steep incline. And I'm coming home one night in my truck, and I go, nope. And I park my truck at the top of the hill because I know how bad it's going to be. But as I'm walking down, I see my neighbor's wife. She's parked perpendicular across the roadway because she was trying to come up the hill and it spun out a little bit. And I said, do you need some help? And she goes, please, what do I do? And I said, do you release me from all damages? And she goes, yeah. And I go, give me your keys. So I took the keys to the car and I put it in a reverse skid down the hill and managed to get it parked on the right way across the road. I'm not going to say God and luck didn't have a little bit to do with it. Did not ding up the car at all. Got it safely out of the way. But guys, if you're not sure, don't push it. What are the majority of vehicles you see spun out on the highway when you're driving in bad conditions? SUVs. Because people think to themselves, I got an SUV. I can handle anything, like a dumb Ari Hoffman who that same hill my neighbor's wife got stuck on. You know what I did one time? I go, hey, I got my 96 Camaro. And the weather, it was that big snowstorm where everybody's trapped in their houses for weeks where the mayor said he was going for a hard packed surface. I go, I can handle this. I'm from New York. No problem whatsoever. I start going up the hill. Wasn't going nowhere. So I'm like, well, I'm committed now. I threw it in reverse. A friend of mine who's down the hill goes, oh, Ari's about to die because I go down the hill backwards in the Camaro. It's a miracle I'm still alive. Don't mess with the Seattle hills, my friends.
You said 96 Camaro?
That was the 96. I had a 73, an 86, and a 96.
Z28? What are we dealing with?
No, it was an RS. It wasn't.
Oh,
it was in any great shakes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that
All
was
right.
actually my grandfather's car.
Okay.
He traded in for the 96 at one point. Yes, I took good care of it. But shall we just say, not the performance my Dodge Charger has.
No.
Definitely not. Little V6 engine wasn't really cutting it, especially in the snowstorm there. But yeah, this one here, driving under the influence, a semi-truck. What are we going to find out about this guy? Commercial license in Washington issued. Wait a second, he's from Illinois. Illinois. They're one of the other ones who are issuing the CDLs to illegals. Are we going to find out? This is one of those cases. Switching gears entirely to a totally new topic, and this was kind of funny. So Saturday night was the Seahawks game, and it started before Sabbath ended. So I didn't know what was going on with the game. We can hear the stadium's fireworks from my house. So as I'm walking home from synagogue, I hear boom, kaboom, kaboom. And I'm thinking, I'm doing the math in my head, and I'm thinking, wait a second. Was that the opening kickoff? Because the opening kickoff, they launched the fireworks, right? And I go, okay, that must have been the opening kickoff. And then I hear kaboom, kaboom, kaboom. I go, wait. Did they just score a touchdown on the opening kickoff? And I'm like, something's wrong. They misfired the fireworks, whatever. I get home, I go, holy cow. They scored a touchdown on the opening kickoff. That's amazing. Reminded me of the Super Bowl when they got the safety on the opening kickoff with the Legion of Boom and all that. Incredible game. Watch the whole thing. Incredible game. Right after the game was over, Bob Ferguson announced a 12% tax on anything Seahawks related. broadcasting, merchandise. No, he didn't, but I had you for a second, right? Everybody goes, yeah. I put out one of my fake memes on social media, and so many people go, yep, he probably will think about this. The most common comment on it was, Ari, don't give him any ideas. Because you know Bob Ferguson. If it's something in Washington, he will find a way to tax it. He claims this is about getting back to basics. Really?
To keep our growth going, let's get back to basics. Our transportation infrastructure is in dire need of investment. You know it, I know it, and trust me on this, the people of our state know it as well. We have 80 bridges in poor condition, which means, and I quote, advanced deficiencies such as section loss, deterioration, or seriously affected structural components. That's why I propose historic investments to take care of our bridges, more than $1 billion without raising taxes. Our infrastructure challenges include roads as well. We rank first in the country for potholes, and that's not the kind of first we want. In short, my proposal constitutes the largest investment in maintenance and preservation in over 2 decades. Let's make that history together.
All right, that sounds good, right? That sounds really, really good. Why do you have to make $1 billion investment? What happened to all the money for infrastructure we've had all these years? What happened to all of it? And also, I never see that Bob Ferguson. Now, mind you, I will give credit where credit is due. You know what Turd Ferguson is really good at? Fixing roads and bridges. I'm very serious. We've had a bunch that were taken out by disasters. He's gotten them fixed ahead of schedule, so it can be done. But what happened to all the money on infrastructure we were promised? Why do you need to make $1 billion investment? We've gotten money from local taxes. We've gotten money from gas taxes. We've gotten money from the feds. Why do you need to make that investment? Shouldn't that investment have been made the whole time? And if you're serious about getting back to basics, then why are you undoing the basics? The basics are, I want roads, I want streets, I want emergency services, I want clean parks. Well, now a new bill is working its way through the Washington legislature, supported by the majority of Democrats, that would stop cities and counties who want to clear homeless encampments from clearing homeless encampments. How is that getting back to basics? Specifically, the bill prohibits local governments from enacting or enforcing laws that criminalize, penalize, and otherwise do not allow a person to engage in life-sustaining activities on public property. That's their term, not mine. Time out. Life-sustaining activities? Doing drugs on a public street is not a life-sustaining activity. Prostitution on public streets is not a life-sustaining activity. Theft, graffiti, vandalism, chop shops, child trafficking, human trafficking. These are not life-sustaining activities. What the Democrats are trying to say is they have nowhere else to go. They're like Richard Gere and an officer and a gentleman. I got nowhere else to go. I got no place else to go, right? Isn't that what it's like? That's what they're trying to make it seem like, but that's just not the case. If, God forbid, you are homeless tonight in Seattle, there is shelter space available for you. And if it's not that system, the nonprofit religious institutions have you covered. But they don't like counting the religious institutions. They're just talking about how many the city actually has control over. What is this really? We know it's the Burien Law. We might as well call this the Burien Law. What happened? Burien, mini Seattle. Following Seattle, lockstep. And then one day they go, you know, our city's gotten pretty crappy and we don't want to be Seattle. They had to detour their July 4th parade around the homeless encampments is how bad it got. So they said, you know what? Let's do something reasonable. We'll propose legislation that says you can't camp within X amount of yards of these public buildings like schools and financial areas and City Hall. You can't camp on public property, but we have to get you a place to go. Reasonable, right? And then Dow Constantine, former King County executive, says to his appointed sheriff, because they do the policing for Burien, don't enforce that law. And it has to go to court, and they have to win it. So without the Homestead Act lawsuit that happened at the Supreme Court, Burien would still be stuck with this problem. So what's happening? The Washington State Legislature goes, yeah, we really want to control when you sweep a homeless encampment. We don't want you to have the power to sweep homeless encampments anymore. So this is what we're going to do. What happened to Back to Basics? Basics are clean parks, usable parks, clean streets. We don't have that. In fact, just today, Kevin, I didn't tell you this. I went for coffee earlier at the Starbucks at Seattle Center. Normally this time of year where it's cold, the homeless people are not outside. They're usually inside this time of day. You've seen it. You know what I'm talking about, right? Mm-hmm. As I'm walking to Seattle Center, there were 4 different people I saw outside Climate Pledge Arena, the theater, the church, outside up on the pavilion area, sleeping in sleeping bags in the middle of the day outside. Things have only gotten worse since Katie Wilson took over. And let's not forget, Seattle Center is a place you could actually remove them from. But then I realized in Seattle Center, I don't know if you've ever noticed this before. When you're walking into the Armory from the pavilion area, off to your right, there's that, is it the theater over there? The kids' theater or whatever it is over on your right.
Yeah, it's like a stage.
Yeah, but on your right, there's the building, which is the theater or whatever it is. There's the church, then there's the theater. It's on your right.
Yeah.
Do you know there's a hygiene station outside that theater plugged in right over there? That's why the homeless are there all the time. A full hot water tank with the heater, with the everything, because they know the homeless are going to congregate, so we might as well give them a place to get cleaned up. But I'm not going to say there weren't homeless people around. I'm saying it is growing exponentially now thanks to Katie Wilson. And if the Washington State Democrats get their way, you can't sweep them out of any of these places. How is that back to basics? Now, Danny Westneat from the Seattle Times had a hell of a weekend. He had 2 or 3 articles where I just said, holy cow, this guy is never right, except for I think once a year, maybe twice a year, where we go, hey, Danny Westneat from the Seattle Times actually got something right. He did an article about the Portland mayor. Portland mayor comes in and says, hey, we're going to get back to basics, and we're going to create all this shelter space, shelter. Here's the numbers of the shelter, but yet the people in Portland go, we don't see a difference, because shelter only gets you so far. If the drug addicts come to the shelter and then leave, they go back to the streets to be drug addicts and pass out on the streets, or go back to whatever else is going on. And they're not addressing any of that, which is why it's not getting better, because Portland is like Seattle. This is our line. You have to be left of center. You have to be more left of center. We want to be compassionate, but we don't want to actually call it a drug problem. We don't actually want to call it a mental health problem. Gee, why isn't it working? Here in Seattle, they want to say, or here in Washington State, they want to say, yeah, we're not going to deal with that problem unless there's shelter. Shelter doesn't solve the problem. You need treatment. You need drug and mental health treatment. You need people who are criminals to go to jail. And if you do not deal with it, if you don't fix these problems, it's only going to fester and get worse no matter how much affordable housing, quote unquote, you build and how many shelters you build. Let's be real. All these states, all these cities, all these counties have figured out the grift. The more we call it affordable housing with wraparound services, the more people will vote or support our taxes on themselves just because they want the issue solved. By passing legislation that says you can't sweep homeless encampments shows they don't want the issue solved. They want it to be worse and worse, and we're already seeing it here in Seattle. When we come back, my friends, teachers behaving badly. That's right, our area is being plagued with it. But luckily for us, Trump administration is stepping up to do something about it. We'll tell you what's going on when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. All right, this one you may have to earmuff the kids for a second. The superintendent of White Pass School District in East Lewis County has been arrested in connection with possession and distribution of child sexual abuse material. According to the Chronicle, about 9 a.m. Tuesday, the Longview Police Department arrested Gregory Ray Teal of Kelso following an extensive investigation. Gregory Teal, quote, is currently employed as a superintendent of the White Pass School District. At this time, there's no evidence indicating that any students within the district were involved. Detectives began investigating after receiving multiple referrals from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. The reports originated from an electronic service provider and identified several online accounts suspected of uploading and sharing illegal images involving minors. Throughout the investigation, Longview police detectives worked in coordination with the organization and multiple electronic service providers. Through court-authorized search warrants, investigators obtained subscriber records, account information, internet usage data that linked the reported online activity to a residential address in Kelso, Washington, and his residence. By the way, this is not the dumbest criminal I've ever heard of. There was actually a teacher in a school I went to years and years ago. A relative of mine was actually a prominent player in this story. This is kind of messed up. A relative of mine gets a phone call from the FBI. Hey, can you come down and watch some video with us? Well, no, I'm not going to do that. No, it's not about you. We need your help identifying somebody or what's going on. Turns out one of our teachers had hidden cameras of us as kids. That's right, and caught a relative of mine on the footage. Gets worse than that. This was the lightest thing they had done. They had installed hidden cameras in our locker room. And the way they were identifying everybody was by the names on the back of their jerseys. Gets worse than that. Apparently, this person was subscribing to an internet source, because this was the 90s, where they're having this stuff mailed to the school. Having the stuff mailed to the school. And they found it when they raided this teacher's apartment. Yeah. Don't you guys realize you leave a digital footprint? Is this challenging? I'm not telling you how to get away with a crime, but is this a surprise to anybody? By the way, you know what I really have to do is go look up White Pass School District was not on my list. But if you look up how much these superintendents get paid, it's astronomical. A lot of them get paid more than the president of the United States. You want to know why school districts don't have enough money? Because you're paying these administrative overhead costs. You want to know why colleges are so expensive? Because every administrator has a secretary and an assistant and a scheduler and something else. That's your problem here. That's why you're spending all this money. And here's the other thing. If this person was doing this, what were they not paying attention to? What was going on in the school district? And why do we keep finding these types of people in schools? Because predators go where there is prey. Anytime a Democrat goes, well, there's some bad police officers and we need to reform police, I go, great. How about we do the school system first? How about we do that right now? Now, luckily, we have the Trump administration. The U.S. Department of Education, Office for Civil Rights, has opened investigations into 18 educational entities across 10 states, including Washington, after receiving complaints alleging violations of Title IX by continuing to allow boys to compete in girls' sports. According to the complaints, the institutions ranging from K through 12 school districts like Tacoma to colleges and state departments of education have policies or practices that allow students to participate in sports based on their gender identity rather than biological sex. The complaints argue that those policies discriminate on the basis of sex, jeopardizing both the safety and equal opportunities of women in educational programs and activities. Quote, in the same week that the Supreme Court hears oral arguments on the future of Title IX, OCR is aggressively pursuing allegations of discrimination against women and girls by entities which reportedly allow males to compete in women's sports. This is Assistant Secretary for Civil Rights Kimberly Ritchie said in a statement. Time and time again, the Trump administration has made its position clear. Violations of women's rights, dignity, and fairness are unacceptable. We will leave no stone unturned in these investigations to uphold women's right to equal access in educational programs, a fight that started over half a century ago and is far from finished. By that, they're calling out the liberals, especially the Democrats, for the fact that, yeah, you guys claim you're all about women's rights, but you're not actually doing anything to protect women's sports. The investigations come after President Donald Trump issued Executive Order 14201 on February 5th, 2025, titled Keeping Men Out of Women's Sports, which the release says bans biological males from participating in women's sports. After the order was signed, Tacoma Public Schools published a statement saying it would not follow the executive order because it contradicts Washington state law, which prohibits discrimination on the basis of gender identity. Wait a second. Isn't gender sex? Oh, I'm so confused. We're going to do that thing where there's 78 different genders, but there's only 2 sexes, but there's actually 10 sexes. Really, guys? Really? Washington State Superintendent's Office said Friday it was aware of the investigation, added that school districts are acting in alignment with state law when they provide trans students and the opportunity to participate in athletics in alignment with their gender identity. How is that working out for you? These investigations are coming. And I got to tell you something. I hope these school districts get defunded. And I'm not the only one, by the way. So, Haywire, which is Brian Haywood's website, has an interview with Travis Reep. He's a North Thurston public school teacher and union rep. Listen to what he said about all this.
My name is Travis Reep. I am a teacher in North Thurston Public Schools. I'm an elected official of North Thurston Education Association. We all the time talk about in education how we don't have enough mental health specialists. We don't have enough resources in these areas. And yet we, with this initiative, trying to block this initiative, we are setting up even more boundaries where parents and families who might have the opportunity to go and find private counseling or private doctor or private medical care don't have that ability because they don't know they need it. I think in some of the union leadership, they actually see if you do not provide gender-affirming care, if you don't support it and provide it, that is abusive in their mind. It's a losing battle. They're putting themselves against parents. They're saying we know better than parents know their own children. It actually puts me in a position where I'm not allowed to get a parent to come alongside me in some of these situations. I would be violating school policy or even state law to say, hey, your child came to me with this concern. I really think you should be informed about this. I am not making a moral decision on what a family decides to do with their child or how to approach the situation. I'm not advocating that they do gender-affirming care or not do gender-affirming care. What I'm advocating for is that they have the knowledge to make that choice on their own.
Exactly. And if you deny parental rights and parents don't know what's going on, the more kids they pull from the schools, the less funding that school district's going to get. But in addition to that, if you don't provide them the stuff, they may lose the funding because the Trump administration comes in and says you're violating civil rights laws. Either way, it means a net loss for the school district because they're sticking to their guns on this, which is a losing argument. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. When we come back, our friend William Kirk from Washington Gun Law will tell us about the insane legislation heading our way to attack your Second Amendment rights. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Another legislative session is underway, which means another slate of insane laws attacking your Second Amendment rights. Joining us now to discuss how terrible these laws are is William Kirk from Washington Gun Law, friend of the show. Welcome back, buddy. Good to see you.
Ari, thanks so much for having me. And you know, these gun laws are terrible, but let's remember that these terrible gun laws all come from one side of the aisle. So I think it is kind of easy to identify the problem.
Yeah, I would agree with you. So why don't we start at the top? Which one do you think is the worst?
Okay, well, which one I think is the worst compared to which one I think is most likely going to pass? There are 6 carryover bills from last year's legislative session and then 4 new bills, one of which was proposed by Representative Walsh, so it will go nowhere. Senate Bill 5098 is a new gun-free zone that passed out of the Senate last year, did not make it through the House. They have already put it on the floor vote this coming week before the Senate. So this would create all new gun-free zones, predominantly in areas where children are located. So the one place you might most need to defend your family will technically be a gun-free zone. There is an exception for CPL holders. So that's the one right now that absolutely has the most momentum. The one that is most likely going to pass, in my opinion, is House Bill 1386 because it's an ammunition, firearms, and component tax. And anything that's got the 3-letter word tax attached to it is going to be a real big favor, very favored by the Democratic Party this year. So I think that those 2 bills are the 2 that are most likely going to make it to the governor's desk.
So let's break these down for a second. I hear that Bob Ferguson is considering a victory tax on all Seahawks apparel and broadcasting and what? Because why not? Because they won. Let's hit. It'll only hit the millionaires, though, right?
If it moves, tax it. That's the new strategy here. Yes.
Okay. Now, regarding the other one about places, these no-gun zones, I don't know if you saw this. Puget Sound Transit said they were replacing all the seats on the light rail with a new vinyl material. Now, the reason is because it's easier to clean, and people liked it better. I said, you mean clean the blood off or the bed bugs? Which one are we going with here? We know the violence, so we know they banned guns from mass transit. So if some lunatic comes at you with a machete or something, you're now in trouble. Do you think this is really, they're just creating these no-gun zones because they want a disarmed population? Do you think it's out of pure virtue signaling? You think it's all of the above? What are we looking at here?
Well, it's probably all of the above, but the problem is that, and you don't have to take my word for it. You can go to the Crime Prevention Research Center. Dr. John Lott does all the independent research on gun laws. And since 1990, 86% of all mass shootings have occurred where? Inside a gun-free zone. Why? Yeah. Because if you're going to go in there with the intent of wreaking havoc, you want to go where you do not have armed resistance. So these laws, unfortunately, don't save lives. And when it comes to gun-free zones, in all likelihood, the statistics show that it's actually endangering lives.
Yep, I would completely agree with you. I mean, just put a giant bullseye on people's back that say, hey, I'm in a gun-free zone. No problem whatsoever. So,
and the problem, Ari, of course, is gun owners have a tendency to be incredibly law-abiding citizens. So they actually follow the laws, where shockingly, the criminals seem to not follow the laws.
Exactly. Now, in the last year since Bob Ferguson became governor, we see crime after crime after crime created by illegal guns or guns that were illegally obtained. And yet they never do anything to address any of this. They don't enforce the laws they have on the books. They just come up with new ways, which shows me it's really about the disarmed population or the taxes. It has nothing to do whatsoever with keeping any of us safe. I mean, these are the same Democrats that were proposing legislation to remove gun enhancements on sentencing when they claim they're the most serious about gun violence.
Well, and then there were 2 bills, one a couple of years ago from now retired Senator Linda Wilson, that would have exponentially increased the sentencing for people who use stolen firearms in the commission of crimes, or those who are using firearms when they weren't supposed to be in possession in the commission of crimes. That bill never even got a committee hearing. Keith Wagner had a fantastic bill last year that would have actually added sentencing enhancements again for people who were unlawfully possessing firearms at the time that they committed violent crimes. That bill was never given a committee hearing, but we are willing to ban the 3D printing of firearms, and now even a bill out there to ban 3D printers, as if that's the problem. And yet the funny thing is again, you don't have to take my word for it. United States Department of Justice, 88.8% of all gun crimes committed in the United States are committed by a person who is unlawfully possessing the firearm at the time the crime is committed. The problem is identifiable. The solution is there. They just choose not to pursue that in Olympia.
banning the 3D printers is a lot like banning the flock cameras, because they just don't want to deal with the crimes anymore, and they don't want ICE having the information. So we're not going to enforce any crimes. We're not going to enforce any laws, and we're not going to help the police, even though they help defund them. It's beyond insane. We're talking.
Well, and what's beyond insane with the 3D printer ban, which is on a video that I did over the weekend, is that, you know, probably 1% of the people who are regularly 3D printing in this state are printing a firearm component, a grip or something like that, once a blue moon. But this legislation will affect everybody who's 3D printing anything for any reason, including the aerospace industry, the marine industry, and a lot of other companies, manufacturers in this state that rely on 3D printing for certain components of what they're manufacturing. It's a horrible piece of legislation.
And I think the majority of people I know who use 3D printers are using it to print cosplay stuff for costumes.
Right. So, yeah, the Star Wars geeks and stuff like that, right? And that's cool. It's great. It's a hobby for them. That's awesome.
Right. I mean, I love that you knew what I was talking about right away.
Yeah,
it seems like we travel in similar circles. In the last few minutes we have with William Kirk from Washington Gun Law. So you're going to SHOT Show this week, and you think about the national interest in guns, and you think about how nationally we got the Trump administration, we got the Supreme Court. I assume a lot of these things will end up in front of the Supreme Court if any of them are actually passed, but we see how many years it takes, and in the meantime, we don't know what to do with them. What's the status on some of these other laws out of Washington that are before the courts right now?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think the other thing that we have really unique for the first time in our country's history is we also have a Department of Justice now that is actually pursuing some unconstitutional gun laws. The two things that the Washington residents are most caught up about is magazine bans, which the Washington state case is before the United States Supreme Court on conference. We don't know if we're going to get a thumbs up or a thumbs down. That's still kicking around on conference. There's another case out of California challenging the same thing. Then there's one case out of Illinois, two cases out of Connecticut right now that are challenging assault weapon bans, which would be applicable to Washington's assault weapon ban case. So we have several matters before the United States Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has already accepted two Second Amendment cases, one of which is going to be argued on Tuesday the 20th. That's a goofy no-gun zone law, a gun-free zone law out of Hawaii in a matter of Wolford v. Lopez. So that would be the first 2A case that the court hears. And then they have another case coming up a little bit later in the year that deals with the prohibitions of cannabis users possessing firearms.
William Kirk from Washington Gun Law, thank you so much for keeping all of us informed on our Second Amendment rights and what the government is trying to do to stop them or help us in terms of the feds. So we do appreciate that. Have a great time at SHOT Show, and thanks so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Now, when we come back, my friends, I saw the latest Star Trek iteration, and it is something. Tell you all about it, even if you're not a Star Trek fan. When we come back, you're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. I almost feel bad playing the theme of good Star Trek to talk about bad Star Trek. Now, even if you are not a Star Trek fan, you have undoubtedly seen an article somewhere about the new Star Trek spinoff, the new Star Trek series, Starfleet Academy. Now, here's the problem with Starfleet Academy. A lot of people say, it's woke, it's woke. That's not the problem with Starfleet Academy. As we have discussed many, many times, anybody from the Star Trek world who says we've always been woke, you've been topical. I don't think you've been woke. For example, Law & Order, topical, rips the news from the headlines, rips it from social issues. I believe Star Trek has always been topical, which is why it's interesting, especially seeing how they portray it in the future. This new Starfleet Academy show, my issue with it is not that it's woke. My issue is that it sucks. It sucks because of what it's trying to do. If you are a longtime Star Trek fan, this is not for you. It is not designed for you. It is designed for teenagers. It is designed for youngins, trying to rope them into the Star Trek galaxy by making a Star Trek multi-relationship, who's dating who. It's Starfleet Academy. I see the direction it's going already. That's what's trying to do. One Tree Hill, 90210, meet Star Trek.
Yeah, I heard One Tree Star Trek is what the joke I heard.
That'll do it. Yeah. Something like that. The Star Trek, like the OC or whatever it is. That's what it's trying to do, which is a little too bad because the opening of it, I go, this is new. This is different. In fact, I said, Kevin, you and I have disagreed about Andor, right? You like the Andor spinoff,
yeah, sure.
Right? You like
that
one?
I like it.
This was originally showing you like this underbelly of Star Trek where everything's so pretty on the spaceships and everything's so nice. And it was showing you prison colonies and prison worlds and judgment systems. And you go, oh, this is interesting. And then it wrote it right off the rails that you completely forgot about that very interesting, unique plot line and instead ended up in teeny bopper land. And that's not for me. This was also designed to make the Discovery fans happy. Star Trek had the spinoff Discovery, which was woke. It's set in the future of that universe. It is designed for the people who liked Discovery. My problem is more so with what they're having the actors do than who the actors are. I think some of the characters they have are interesting. I didn't go ballistic about the female Jem Hadar the way everybody else did. I didn't care about that stuff. I don't care about people's body shape and size. I care about the fact that the captain of the ship, while everybody else is working, is curled up reading a book in the captain's chair. Okay, so if I am doing my thing and Mr. KVI is over there in his office watching DVDs or something, I'm going to be like, dude, we're working here, you know? So if your captain is sitting there reading a book while everybody else is working, what kind of leadership? They're trying to be like, oh, she's chancellor of an academy. She's very well read. What are you doing? You want the captain of the ship, whether it's a guy, whether it's a gal, whether it's an alien, whether it's anything else, you want the captain of the ship to be the captain of the ship. This is the person who's in charge. I don't get that here. I had that, and then they kind of ruined the character with that nonsense. We had somebody who had a haunted past who's coming into it. I'm like, this is interesting. And then once again, they wrote it right off the rails. I like Star Trek Strange New Worlds. I love Strange New Worlds. So for people who say there's no good Star Trek anymore, that just ain't true. We know that the cartoon show is over, Lower Decks, but that was good Star Trek. This is trying to make the Discovery folk happy who don't like the stuff that you and I like. They created this new audience, these woke Trekkers they got, and now they're trying to satisfy them. Don't get mad about it. Just don't watch it. Is it worth a boycott of Paramount? No. It's just not your flavor. Am I going to watch it? I may give it a couple more episodes, but I'm just kind of bored at this point. And none of the characters really stand out. Plus, there's robots everywhere. And I don't mean data, android robots. I mean like Star Trek robots. And where'd all the Star Trek robots come from? Wrong TV show, my friends. Wrong movie, wrong series, wrong studio, wrong franchise. Lots more to discuss as the show continues. It's been a year of Trump in office. So are we winning or are we losing? We'll tell you all about it when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, Gasworks Park here in Seattle. If you don't want to die, don't climb on the ruins of the factory that's left behind. We'll discuss the hubbub this is creating locally, but first, it's been a year of Trump 2. It's been a year of him in office. Do you think we are winning? Do you think we are losing? Do you think it's a wash? What grade would you give our president and his administration? Give me a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Let's start with what the top issue was during the campaign. The top issue was the border. President Trump came out today and did a whole press conference touting the wins of the Trump administration. And undoubtedly, the border being closed is a massive, massive win. Here's the president.
For the first time in 50 years, we are now seeing reverse migration, where because we're getting all of these illegal people out. People that came in illegally, in many cases, they're criminals in many, many cases. You remember when they used to say that the people that come into our country as immigrants are very nice people, they're wonderful people, they don't commit crime. No, they make our criminals look like babies. They make our Hell's Angels look like the sweetest people on earth. The Hell's Angels are now considered a nice, high-quality person.
That's a great comparison, by the way. He's 100% right. And his position should not be controversial. We could have a nuanced conversation about immigration. Should the criminals go? Where do you draw the line at felonies? Can we all agree on that? But nobody wants to have a nuanced conversation. You know who did say they wanted illegal aliens gone? Bill Clinton in 1995.
Criminal and other deportable aliens deported since 1993. Every day, illegal aliens show up in court who are charged. Some are guilty and surely some are innocent. Some go to jail and some don't. But they're all illegal aliens. And whether they're innocent or guilty of the crimes they're charged with in court, they're still here illegally, and they should be sent out of the country.
So that is the key phrase there. Whether they are guilty or innocent of the crimes they are charged with in court, they're still here illegally.
Exactly. That was Fox News recapping that Bill Clinton said that. Coming across the border is a crime. Democrats keep saying coming across the border illegally is a crime. People keep saying, no, it's not. It's just a misdemeanor. Okay. Let me grant your premise for a second. The second time you come across, now we're talking felony time. So can we stop with this nonsense? By the way, wasn't just Bill Clinton saying that. One of our wokest presidents ever. Here's Barack Hussein Obama.
The Bush administration has done nothing to control the problem that we have. We've had 5 million undocumented workers come over the borders since George Bush took office. It has become an extraordinary problem. And the reason the American people are concerned is because they are seeing their own economic position slip away. And oftentimes, employers are exploiting these undocumented workers. They're not paying the minimum wage. They're not observing worker safety laws. And so what we have to do is create a comprehensive solution to the problem. Now, I have already stated that as president, I will make sure that we finally have the kind of border security that we need. That's step number one. Step number two is to take on employers. Right now, an employer has more of a chance of getting hit by lightning than be prosecuted for hiring an undocumented worker. That has to change. They have to be held accountable. And when we do those things, I believe that we can take the undocumented workers, the illegal aliens who are here, get them out of the shadows, make sure that they are subject to a stiff penalty, make sure that they're learning English, make sure that they go to the back of the line so they're not getting an advantage over people who came here legally. And when we do that, I think that we can, instead of shedding all this heat, start shedding some light on the problem, and we can once again be a nation of laws and a nation of immigrants. That's what I intend to do as President of the United States.
Did I just agree with something Barack Obama said? Did I just say, wait, that was well thought out? I think that's only like the second time ever in my life I agreed with anything that guy said. Yeah, I disagree with the end part, and we can discuss the end part. But he was slamming George Bush for having an open border policy. Barack Obama was the deporter in chief. The left hated that he did that. And now we've gone from let everybody in to deporting. You know that Barack Obama deported more people than Donald Trump? And yet you didn't see the left going ballistic about that. You hear them applauding him. Applauding him. I would say on the border, we get an A+++++ from President Trump. In fact, Robin Lakewood agrees. A+ on the border, A- overall. Now, some other people have some other feelings about how the first year in office has gone. Here's my overall take, is that when he's pushing forward with the policies we all like, we're all happy. When he pushes forward with stuff we don't understand or stuff we disagree with, we go, well, that's him being him. Has he done anything that he didn't say he was going to do? He's been working on everything. The tariffs, whether you like them, whether you don't like them, he said he was going to do it. It's interesting when you analyze his approval ratings because his approval rating is still in that 40-45 range. The people who love him, love him. The people who voted for him, 92% of them are happy. So whenever the Democrats say people didn't know what they were voting for, he has done literally everything he said he was going to do. Let's give another example, shall we? Let's talk about the border, keeping people out. Let's talk about foreign relations. Let's talk about international intrigue. So, he has stopped 8 wars. 8 wars. And a lot of you go, that's not America first. Actually, it is. If we don't have to keep getting involved in these things, that's better for everybody. If we're doing business with these countries rather than blowing up these countries, that's better for everybody. Got the hostages home from Gaza? That's better for everybody. What's going on right now internationally, I can't remember a single president in my lifetime who did anything like this. In fact, over the weekend, something just amazing happened. So over the weekend, I heard that there was going to be an Iranian protest in downtown Seattle. So what happens is I go to cover it. And it's the Iranians who are protesting because they want freedom for Iran. So I go downtown. I'd say there was, I don't know, about 200-300 people down there. It was really a nice crowd. Nobody wearing masks. Nobody beating anybody up. Nobody chanting for the death of anybody. No, it was people saying they want regime change in Iran. I mean, really, it was really just nice to see. It was something where you have all these people chanting. I was inspired. Now, mind you, if we want to get into the nuances of Iran, and you want to say, wait a second, these people are calling for the return of the Shah. Okay, the Shah liked Western values, but the Shah was not a good guy. You kind of lose me there. But also, I'm not going to say, well, let's impose democracy, because we know that the U.S. is really not good at exporting democracy around the world. We're really not good at that. If the Iranian people want a king, let them have a king. As long as we have good relations with them, as long as they're not taking people with the secret police like they were under the previous Shah, then fine. But it was really nice. There was a woman from my community. She lost her home in Iran. She had tears in her eyes, thinking this is something that might actually happen. Now, there was a weird moment at this. There were no counter-protesters until the very, very end, when a giant dude in a dress, who is most likely on some kind of hormone therapy because his voice sounded like Mickey Mouse, and he's definitely picking the wedgies is not very ladylike behavior that I saw from this individual. This person comes with a bullhorn and starts chanting against Trump, against ICE, and against everything else, saying that everybody else, the audio wasn't so good, or I'd play it for you. But this person was saying how these people are miseducated. They don't know. All right, dude in the dress. One, you're not fooling anybody just because you sound like Mickey Mouse. Oh, okay, you're not. But number two, here's the other thing about that. You're going to tell the Iranians who lost their home that they're miseducated about what's going on in Iran. Just making sure I got that, dude in a dress. And why do I keep emphasizing that? Because in Iran, you would be thrown off the tallest building they could possibly find. In fact, most likely, they wouldn't haul you all the way up there. They would hang you from a construction crane. They would just find a crane, hang you from it. End of story. Don't tell these people they're under misinformation or miseducated. The fact that we may actually see the Iranian regime fall, the Ayatollahs fall in our lifetime, it's like watching the 1970s in reverse. Don't tell the Iranians out there they're miseducated. Plus, I learned something. Never, ever mess with Persians. Ever, 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 ever. Don't do that. Okay? One counter-protester. Do you think we would actually see Iran on its knees? Joe Biden was funding them. Barack Obama was funding them. Other Republicans were playing footsie with them. And yet, we might actually see the Iranian terror regime, the number one state sponsor of terror, fall in our lifetime. Does that mean freedom for the Iranians? Well, there's the day after thing to consider. But the posters there were cheering President Trump. They were saying, make Iran great again. Those were the posters at this event. It was really incredible. My daughter was there with us, and I was covering the thing. My wife was covering it for a Jewish news outlet she works for. And my daughter, kind of gets a little bored of the protesting. She'd rather be hanging out with her friends or whatever. And I said, sweetie, you don't understand. This is history. This is history. And she's like, okay, whatever. This is actual history. Is it going to be something that results in the end of the Iranian regime? I don't know. Rob in Lakewood makes a good point. Trump's first year versus President Kamala Harris's or Walz's first year. Yeah, when you compare it that way, there's no comparison whatsoever. Or Trump's first year versus Biden's first year. Just think about that. John in Auburn says, Ari, I give Trump an 11 out of 10. Time to turn it up to 12, if not 15. Make the left cry to their mommies even more. So for me, now we get into the economic factors for a second. The tariffs. Me personally, I would have waited until the economy recovered more before doing the tariffs. I think the threat of the tariffs in many cases was enough to get things rolling in the right direction. Now, whether you like the tariffs, whether you don't like the tariffs, people want to do business with the U.S. They really, really do. Talk about gas, for example. More people buy gas, more gas being produced. Guess what? It's going to be a lot cheaper. Here's the president.
We inherited high numbers, and we brought them way down. And look at gasoline. They have places in the country now, $1.99 a gallon. $1.99, $2.30, $2.50. I guess the average now they're saying is $2.31. I mean, he was at $4.50 and $5 for periods of time. And he went back to the Trump formula, but he didn't do it properly, and he really went back to parts of it because you would have had $8 gasoline if they didn't. But he didn't do it properly. He had people that didn't know what they were doing. Core inflation for the last 3 months is 1.6%. 1.6. Their core inflation was so high that nobody could even calculate it. Under Biden, real incomes declined $3,000. Think of that, $3,000. That's a year. In 12 months, Trump real incomes went up by $2,000 and $3,000 and even in some cases $5,000. It's a tremendous difference. Stock market has set 52 all-time record highs during the course of the 11 months, because this was done on 11 months. Now we are actually officially 12 months as of today. 52 all-time record highs. That means 401ks did great.
He's absolutely right on all of that. A lot of people say, well, why don't I feel it in my wallet? Why are things still expensive? Because a lot of retailers go, well, they're paying this price for it. Why would we bring it down? But also, just because you're at half the inflation you were, you're still half higher than you were, which means it's going to take a while for it to come back down. But your gas prices are cheaper, not here in Washington, but your gas prices are cheaper, which means your goods are cheaper in a lot of other parts of the country, and prices are coming down. Now, it also means there's a lot more investment in the U.S. It means a lot of companies are coming home thanks to the tariffs, the threat of tariffs. In fact, here's President Trump talking about the tariffs.
Using tariffs slashed the U.S. trade deficit by an incredible 77%. The trade deficit is down, and that doesn't include the last month where we had our best month. We slashed the trade deficit by an incredible 77% in 1 year with no inflation, something that everyone said could not be done. So we had essentially no inflation. In fact, the last month we had almost no inflation. But we slashed the trade deficit by 77%. If you slashed it by 1%, that was good. Again, we did that with tariffs and intelligence. We did that with November 5th, great election. We secured historic trade deals to reduce barriers on U.S. exports with countries covering 40% of all U.S. trade. Think of that. American exports are up by more than $150 billion this year. People said, oh, we're not exporting. All we do is buy. If you keep buying, you're not going to have a country for very long. So we increased exports by more than $150 billion. Investment in American factories is up 41%. That's a record. Nobody goes 41% up. You go 2% up, 1% up. You go down by 3%. If Kamala got elected, the 41% up would be 41% down.
He's right. In fact, inflation would get worse. You know why? The first thing the Democrats would have done is pass a spending bill. And the spending bill would have called like the Inflation Reduction or whatever. We already had one of those. They do another one, some massive spending bill, which is why I'm hitting the Republicans so hard for proposing a massive spending bill. They would propose some kind of massive spending bill to pay off everybody who helped get them elected. And that will happen again. Guaranteed. Guaranteed that will happen again. I don't like the tariffs. I like the threat of tariffs. I don't like the tariffs themselves because there's also a tax on Americans. Are they talking about some kind of rebate for us? Sure, maybe. But I'm not the biggest fan of the tariffs. I like the threat of them. I like using them as a tool. I don't like them themselves. Are they bringing jobs back? Yes, but I think the threats would have done the exact same thing. Here's something else, the jobs reports. The jobs reports have not been great because we've been laying off so many people from the federal government. But then again, Joe Biden's jobs reports were constantly being adjusted down every month, adjusted down, adjusted down, adjusted down. We've discussed that. That's because they didn't want to call it a recession when it actually was. But 1 in 4 jobs during Biden were federal government jobs. That's not job creation. That's government expansion. Now we're actually creating real jobs.
Under Biden, 1 out of 4 jobs added was a government job. Think of that. So 25% of the jobs added. That's when you know that, that's 25% of the jobs aren't real jobs. But again, I could do that. I could add 2 million jobs right now, would have an unemployed. I could say just hire some more people. I do the opposite. I say get rid of everybody that's unnecessary because that's the way you make America great again. When you have, all these jobs where people are sitting around doing nothing and they get a lot of money by the government, it's no good. But that's what the Democrats do. They show, we were at 4% unemployment. That's a good number. But they just add jobs, or they wouldn't cut. They would never cut jobs. Under Trump, 100% of all new jobs created have been in the private sector. Think of that. Not 1% has gone to federal. So under Biden, 1 out of 4 was a government job. Under Trump, 100% of the new jobs created, 100% came from the private sector. That's how you make your country wealthy and strong and good.
Notice he didn't say we created the jobs, and he would have actually been within his rights to do so. Not that the government created the jobs, but to be able to say with the tariffs, we got these companies to come back, and now they're American jobs. And with the more oil drilling, he could have said our policies enabled job creation while Joe Biden just expanded the federal government. He would have been in his rights to say that. I would have said, hey, the government doesn't make jobs. I would have said that, create jobs. But he would have been within his rights to say that. Overall, what grade do you give the Trump administration? Me, I'm going to say a B+. Why? Why not an A-? Why not an A? Because we're back to getting distracted by the stupid. There's a lot of stupid that is starting to draw the Trump administration off message. A few months ago, I would have said A-, A+, A+++++. But a lot of that stupid is starting to distract the conversation. I love his policies. I like what he's doing. I have some reservations about the tariffs. But I'm looking at this and going, when you get distracted by crazy like Rob Reiner or anything else like that, it starts pulling you off message, and people start dinging you for that rather than focusing on the amazing stuff you're doing. Love the policies, but we're starting to get distracted by that. What grade would you give the Trump administration? Give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, new controversy over a local park. Why is there a giant abandoned factory there to begin with, and why are people climbing on it and dying? We'll discuss when we come back, but first, Todd Herman's Daily Thoughtcast, right now on The Ari Hoffman Show. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, my friends, if you never want to miss a minute of the show, download the KVI app and, of course, subscribe on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. While you're there, remember to rate and share so that way your friends and others can find out how awesome the show is. I asked you guys what grade you would give the Trump administration, so we go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from Terry in Parkland. Terry, what do you say?
Hey, Ari, I give Trump an A-, man. You took it right out of my mouth. Everything that you said was exactly spot on what I was thinking.
Thank you. I like when people think I'm right.
And also for your listeners, we got $3.15 gasoline. I don't know if anybody has cheaper than that, but that's at the Love's on whatever it is, Pacific Highway and Port of Tacoma.
You got to be specific there, Terry. That if that's where it is, I'm going to get gas there at some point because that's cheaper than my gas.
I just got some last week. I filled it up, $40.
Okay. Okay. I mean, look, I'm going down to the Roanoke Conference this weekend in Ocean Shores. If there's cheaper gas along the way, I will find it because I know how expensive gas is here in Washington. Here on the text line, we got Robin Lakewood who says gas in Texas is $1.90. $1.90. Terry, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Kevin looks like he wanted to weigh in on the gas prices. Nah, he's good. He's just suffering like the rest of us.
Yeah, no, I gas up around here. I try to get strategic, and there's no...
No. My neighborhood, do you know in South Seattle, has some of the highest gas prices in Seattle aside from downtown? I started using Gas Buddy more and more because it's so expensive. They are ripping off for people who claim they care so much about the poor and the downtrodden and the minorities. Why is gas in South Seattle as expensive as downtown? I think the most expensive gas station in Seattle is actually near my house. It's a Shell station. Yes, I know it's a Shell station, but it's a Shell station. Every time I go by, it's like $5. It's almost $5 a gallon. It's crazy.
Do you ever have to, are you forced to get gas along this? Because we've got Denny here.
Yeah,
and that's like the major strip in Seattle where there's like
Yes.
3 gas stations. There's like a Shell.
Yep.
There's a
2
76.
Shells.
There's 2 Shells.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
So if you're ever screwed, that's where you got to go.
Yeah.
I always think of that gas station in Manhattan, which now is half the price of our gas. That's how bad it is. Yes. Gas in Manhattan is $1 cheaper per gallon minimum than here in Seattle, Washington. Make sure you thank a Democrat for that one. Speaking of things here in Seattle, okay, Gasworks Park. Those of you who don't live in Seattle, if you've seen the movie 10 Things I Hate About You, you know when Heath Ledger and Julia Stiles are paintballing by throwing paintballs at each other? That's Gasworks Park.
That happens there every weekend, by the way.
It does?
No.
Okay. I'm like, what are you talking? I'm like, am I about to sound like an idiot where I say there's no paintballing at gas? There is no paintballing. And also, I've never seen paintball where you throw it. Every paintballing I know involves giant guns. The more realistic looking, the better. So that is something that does not happen there. But 10 Things I Hate About You is trying to use every Seattle area landmark as best as they could. So what can we do here? Oh, let's put paintballing here. That's where everybody watches fireworks on 4th of July. That's where you go. It has a giant old refinery on the site, which has become like a play structure, which I always thought was stupid because in refineries, they're very dangerous and they have narrow walkways and you have to wear hard hats and you have to be careful. But here in Seattle, sections of it are allowed to be a climbing structure. And when you encourage people to climb a refinery, why are you surprised when people go, gee, I wonder if I can go over there even though I'm not supposed to go over there? Am I supposed to go over there? Am I not supposed to go over there? Climb the thing, then fall off and die. Now, mind you, there is a little bit of Darwin Awards here where you go, maybe I shouldn't make that climb. Maybe I shouldn't do that. But when you say, hey, you're allowed to climb in parts of it, you kind of set yourself up for that. Why they didn't remove the whole thing at the time, they thought it'd be interesting. Now, mind you, Gasworks Park, when I used to set up bounce houses there, when we set them up for the big Seafair thing, we weren't allowed to use stakes in the ground. Because if you use stakes in the ground, you could permeate whatever's down there and allow whatever garbage is under the ground up into the air. We had to bring in very heavy weights to keep the bounce houses situated. We weren't allowed to put stakes in the ground because you might die or whatever's going on there. And I don't want to touch that stake afterwards for whatever it picks up down there. This is one of our parks. Don't have to worry about what the homeless did to it. We did it through industrial whatever here. So now the conversation is after yet another death at Gasworks Park. Is this a Darwin Award or is this we're setting ourselves up for failure? Which, little bit of both here. So the city's talking about maybe we should get rid of Gasworks Park. You know what? You should have done that years ago. Really, you should have. Are people dumber now? Absolutely. There's no mistaking that. But if we don't let kids climb on the playground equipment we had in the 80s, why are you letting them climb on an old refinery? I mean, you look at the playground equipment now, I don't see castles. I don't see awesome stuff like we had. I don't see the swinging wooden drawbridges or the spinny things that you would just go on till you puked or the teeter-totters. I don't see any of that.
We had a pair of tires, like giant truck tires 4 of them that they put together, and you'd run on it like a hamster wheel. but they're big, right? So
that's cool.
You'd hold on these like side rails and you can get running on it. But mostly what happened is you'd lose your balance and you'd face plant right into the ground.
Yes.
So people were losing their teeth on the playground or banging their heads into the and of course the two rails that you held onto.
Yeah.
Steel.
Yes.
Steel.
Solid steel. So if you slip and fall, your head is going bashing into the steel.
One year we showed up, it was just chained up. You couldn't do it anymore.
I love how now the ground is foam. Have you seen this?
Yes, I've
it's
seen
not
that.
even wood chips.
Yeah.
It's foam.
Yeah.
Absolutely. By the way, you can still lose your teeth in the foam.
Sure.
Seen it happen myself. But if we're doing that with our play equipment, let's let them climb on an oil refinery or whatever it used to be over there. Sure, that'll be perfectly safe. Look, is there some stupidity involved in this? Absolutely. But if you say you can climb here, but you can't climb there, but you can't really tell what you can climb on, what you can't climb on, that's a city liability. But realizes that if they decide to get rid of this thing, who's paying for it? You. What's going to happen is you're going to see a new tax. The Gas Works Park Improvement or something about the climate. You'll see that, and we're all going to be paying for it. And then when it comes out, what are they going to put there instead? A state-of-the-art play structure where you go, this is lame. That old refinery was way cooler to climb on than this was. So, yeah, you think they should rip out Gasworks Park or not? You think it's just Darwin doing what Darwin does? Give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. And remember, if you are touring Seattle and you are new to the area, there is no paintballing in Gasworks Park. You got to go out to the sticks to go paintballing. There's nothing nearby with the paintballing. Lots more to discuss as the show continues. When we come back, my friends, I discuss the elephant in the room. Little few changes here at KVI because our text line has been blowing up and our phone line with you asking about it. We'll tell you all about what's going on when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. You guys have some amazing texts on our last segment. First of all, with gas prices, a lot of you are saying go to the reservations. They have the cheapest gas. You are 100% correct. They also have the cleanest bathrooms and the nicest gas stations. I don't know why that is. They just do. When I was doing the Bounce House Company, doing deliveries all the time, I would always time to get gas at the reservation, use the bathroom, snacks, whatever it was. Always, always good stuff there. This one here from Rob in Port Orchard. We had a metal two-frame tugboat I almost broke my back on. That sounds about right. You remember when the playground equipment would go bad? It went seriously bad. Like when a plastic slide would crack and you tear something on it. Or better yet, when it was so hot, the fire of 1,000 suns, you would literally burn your skin going down those suckers at the playground. Yes, absolutely. You guys gave us a lot of good stuff. Here, this one. Ari, in my grade school years, we were prohibited from playing hardball. So we played softball, exactly the same rules as regular baseball. The catcher wore a mask. We played tackle football. Yeah, that sounds about right. We played rag ball. You know the rag ball? The thing doesn't go very... It's so stupid. It's the size of a softball, but it's like cloth. And you try and hit this sucker, it's got nothing to it. I think they realized that was stupid and started playing softball. Softballs are not soft. They are very, very hard.
We had some weird ones that were made out of almost like Nerf material. They were softball shaped in size, but they were kind of foamy, and then they had a harder core in the inside.
Yeah.
So they would go pretty far, but
sure,
if you got hit by it, it wouldn't.
If you're worried about it, play punch ball with one of the pink Spaldings, right? Play punch ball with one of those suckers. You don't even know what this is.
I don't know what
East
that
Coast.
is. Yeah,
East Coast.
no.
That's an East Coast thing. Okay, or stick ball, that kind of stuff you can do. All East Coast, Brooklyn kind of stuff. That's what that was. Yeah, if you're worried about that, don't play. My kids, when they were little, I remember they would play hardball because they were practicing for baseball. And one time the school took it away from them. They took away their hardball. So what was funny was my kids, being my kids, actually started a petition to get their baseball back. Yes, how you know they're Ari Hoffman's kids. They started a petition to get their baseball back. That sounds about right. That was the kind of thing that my kids did. And actually they eventually won and did get their baseball back. So the elephant in the room. The text line has been blowing up for the last 48 hours with a lot of people asking what happened to Phil and Zach and the morning show. It was a decision by Lotus Corporate, our ownership group, based on budgetary stuff, to get rid of the morning show and replace it with Brian Kilmeade. I had nothing to do with this whatsoever. I had no say in this. In fact, I didn't even know this was happening until Friday. So for everybody out there who's been asking about this, if you are unhappy with this decision, you can always email comments@kvi.com. That's comments@kvi.com. And it's not just an anonymous thing. Everybody will see them. Everybody who you want to see them will see them, and you can send it there. The thing that's now Zach, by the way, Zach is still around. Zach is still doing stuff for us, but Phil's not here anymore. So you'll hear Zach from time to time doing other things. Zach is still around, helping us out with social media and various other things. He's still here. However, you might have noticed that Kevin's here today, and you're not hearing Mike. And that's because Mike was also cut as part of these budget cuts. Also laid off. And that is something that has really shook me because I didn't know about that either. I was just as surprised as anybody else when that happened. And I will tell you this, is that this radio show is what it is because of Mike. Mike coached me at the beginning, in fact, still coached me up until what happened on everything and made me a better radio host. He's also a very, very good friend. There's nobody better to go see a movie with. There's no more loyal friend ever. And this really absolutely crushed me. It was a bad weekend in the Hoffman house. It's a bad weekend at KVI. If you're unhappy with these decisions, you can text us. They're reading all the texts also. You can also email us, comments@kvi.com, and everybody at KVI will see them, comments@kvi.com. So if you want to weigh in, that's what you can do.
You can also do Kevin@kvi.com. Just send them to me.
Kevin will forward them on to corporate, and he'll see them too. Do not blame Kevin for this. Do not blame Mr. KVI for this. It's not his fault. He was blindsided too by parts of this. So I'm telling you guys, is like, if you're upset about this and you're as upset as I am about this, comments@kvi.com, comments@kvi.com. Now, the show will continue doing what we do, which is exposing the Seattle insanity and being the watchdog for Washington, especially the Washington State Legislature. You can get your local coverage every single weekday from 3 to 6 p.m. right here on the Ari Hoffman Show. In fact, just to illustrate that, I saw one of the craziest pictures of a homeless encampment I have ever seen in my life doing this, being involved in politics around here. It's on the roof of a building in downtown Seattle. No, this is not AI. Somebody climbed a fire escape, set up a tent on a roof with the mattresses, with everything else. And what's fascinating is you actually see some of the air ducts around it are graffitied because the stuff always goes with it. Somebody who works in the building sent it over and said, you got to see this. Holy cow, check this out. And you see the police in the picture literally going in to break up the homeless encampment. So I'm telling you, we will still cover the insanity like that, holding government officials accountable. Is it hard times? Is it tough times? Yes, absolutely. And we are all heartbroken around here over what happened. And if you want to weigh in on it, you email us comments@kvi.com. It is not some anonymous thing. It actually goes to everybody at KVI. Comments@kvi.com. And on that note, only good news to wrap up the show. Your good news headlines put a smile on your face heading into your evening commute. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. It is time to feel good as we wrap up another awesome, amazing, incredible, but also very emotional show right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. And like I said, guys, I see a lot of you chiming in on the news here. If you're not happy about it, you can text the show 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Or email comments@kvi.com. That's comments@kvi.com. Corporate is reading all the stuff, is seeing all the stuff. So if you're unhappy what happened with the morning show, what happened with Mike, just send it on over there. They will see all of this. Also, if you want to thank everybody, we'll make sure those get passed on as well. This one here from Bob in the 509. Ari, pretty sure most of the industrial leavings of gasworks is surrounded by fencing. The idiots have to take an effort to illegally access it, so it's on them. I agree, by the way. In the summer, Lake Union hosts the Duck Dodge sailboat race on Tuesday nights. In the winter, we have the Goosebumps race on Sunday afternoon. Some of the idiotic things we've seen at gasworks while sailing by the north leg of the race truly defy the imagination. Any activities there should be legally and financially attributed to Darwin. You know how you could actually solve this? You put up the giant signs that they have on ski mounds. You have a release of liability on your ski ticket, on the ski mounds. They're all over the place, whether you notice them or not. I actually think that's the cheapest way to do it, but I know Seattle. Seattle's stupid. Or build a higher fence, whatever the case may be. There's ways to do this. Yank it out the whole thing. You guys had your chance. It's there. I don't want to pay for this thing personally. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from Craig in Puyallup. Craig, what's going on, man?
Well, I kind of feel like, coming on after that last segment, it's like, other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play?
How was the play? Right. Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, I call recent listener since like the late 80s when the Rush was on KVI. So anyway, growing up in the 70s, going to grade school, we played dodgeball. The red, distinctive play balls we threw at each other. Oh, no, not good enough. No, the teachers started throwing out volleyballs. So, use them. Way harder, smaller, and faster.
I can still feel
they made a noise.
I can still feel, taste, smell a volleyball. Sorry, not a volleyball, a dodgeball impacting my face
yes.
at full velocity.
And
the sound, that high pitched ding noise, that
ping. And there was always that one dude who could wrap it up in his arm just right and fling it at like Mach 3.
Yes.
And then we go out to the playground to play. And the best we could hope for was to land in pea gravel. The worst we could hope for was he landed on, I guess, was concrete.
Concrete.
Riverside Elementary in Puyallup off of River Road. They laid out concrete drain pipes and set them in concrete. That was a toy.
God. Oh my God,
and
that's
we
crazy.
Climbed on them. We climbed through them. And I doubt it's there anymore, but I remember sitting in the middle of them going, I guess this is fun, right? They had earth mover tire pyramid up. It's like 6 tires, then 4, then 5. Then you climb all the way. You get all the way to the top. You can go through the middle, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm 10 feet under tires.
Yeah.
And go out and have fun. Bye. And then going back to class, the teacher's break room would open. The smoke level was like waist high. I don't blame them, but you fall. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of my stuff. Sounds a little safer because I was an '80s kid, and they said, okay, you can still play on the concrete. We're not gonna have you playing concrete pipes. We're gonna build everything out of wood. Everything's gonna be made out of wood and metal, and you'll be fine. You'll like it. You'll be fine. But yeah, death traps.
Slide at Karshner Elementary, metal, and it would hit the sun just right. So you had to go up there, and you had to not touch the sides.
Yes,
as you climbed way up.
You could fry eggs on it.
Down the thing.
We had our short shorts too. That didn't help anything. The short shorts everybody had to wear in the 80s. Oh dear.
Oh yeah.
Craig, thanks for putting a smile on my face on a day like today. Really do appreciate you being part of the show. You remember what I said. You want to weigh in on the changes here at KVI, you text us 206-421-5757, or you drop us an email, comments@kvi.com. That's comments@kvi.com. In other good news, the Seahawks dominated the 49ers the other night. It wasn't even fair. It was just fun. Lots of fun. I actually feel bad for my nephew who married my niece. He's a Bears fan. That game.
That was brutal.
That was brutal. I feel worse for the Bills fans. That call was terrible. Yeah, I had lots of time to catch up on all this, but Seahawks being absolutely dominant, I kind of want to know what you guys think. You think the Rams are a challenge? You think the Rams are not a challenge? Are you confident about how this is going to go? You're not confident about how this is going to go. You drop us an email or a text, 206-421-5757, ARI@KVI.com. That's ARI@KVI.com. Watching that game was fun. I promised Mike I wouldn't wear my Seahawks jersey till the end of the season because I don't want to jinx it because I haven't worn it so far. I may be a bandwagon fan, but I'm very superstitious about my sports things, so I'm not putting on that jersey until the season's over. I'll put it on for the parade if there is one, which will be a lot of fun. I pulled my kids out of school for the last parade. Yeah, I did that just to watch it on TV. I don't know if that makes me the best dad or the worst dad. I don't know which one it is. Either way, that's history, right, guys? Well, that's going to do it for us today. Remember, you can send me an email or KVI an email, Ari@KVI.com or comments at KVI.com. Text us at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757 if you want to weigh in on all the changes around here. But that's going to do it for us today. Fear not, my friends. We will be back tomorrow with more insane stories, more exciting guests, and hopefully a lot more good news. You've been listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.